Aliyah Abdullah. Hi there, how are you? Oh, can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You can't hear me?
Okay. I heard no, I can't, but I heard the intro. I could hear all the music.
Hold on one second. Okay, did that help at all? No? All right.
Let me try. Let's see what I can do. 1 second.
I hear you fine. I don't know what's going on. Okay, Lika is saying she can hear both of us.
I
Okay.
can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me now? Okay.
Yes, perfect.
Sounds good. Sorry about that. So welcome to Candid Conversations, Aliyah Abdullah. How do you say your last name? I don't like
Yeah, Abdullah.
Abdullah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Well, welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you here, and I'm so excited to just learn about what you do. I was already just impressed with the high resolution photo that you sent over with the boxing gloves. So I'm like, oh, what's she going to talk about? So I want to hear about that. But first, the first thing on your resume is a UX design. Is that
Yes.
okay? So can you talk about that because I don't know what that means at all.
Okay. Yes, yes. Well, for one, thank you for having me on here for this conversation. And two, so diving into UX design. So UX stands for user experience. And a quick backstory into that is I actually have recently made the career change. So I've kind of grazed upon the industry and touching some of the ins and outs of UX design, but I predominantly had a background in marketing.
Okay.
And I kind of just have this epiphany moment of, I think I'm ready for a change. I want to take that next step. And what does that look like? What can that be? And what were my skill sets that I can transfer over? So with user experience and product design. So let's say, for example, you have an app or you have a website. So there's usually a user experience designer that's strategically placing and intentionally placing, whether it's links that you're clicking, the height of the text, and where an image sits to draw and capture your attention. So there's a little bit of psychology that's also wrapped within it as well. But at the end of the day, I think what drew me to it most is the design thinking process, which is similar to being an entrepreneur, where you have to observe people, you have to look and see what are their needs and what are their natural behaviors before you take that next step, which is what I've been doing lately is UX research and asking questions, designing something. I have an app on my website on aliyah.com that I did for a candle marketplace, but basically, I'm designing to solve a need and I'm also designing to make the experience seamless. So great design is when you don't know that something is designed.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so, like, what type of do you work with individuals or you work with companies or you work with, like, nonprofit organizations? Who do you typically design for?
Yes. So with the start of it, I've been building up my portfolio. In the past, I worked with a nonprofit or two nonprofits, actually. So the Jug Life Foundation was my first entry or step into UX design. And that was quite some years ago. It wasn't like an official position, but it kind of just somehow fell into the marketing arm because the industry itself is relatively popular now. But back then, it was like something needed to be done or like someone needed to do it, and by default it was just throw it to the marketing department. um yeah, so that being said, I did the Jug Life Foundation, and then the most recent one when I was working with Scale Inspire, which is a foundation that's geared towards exposing inner city youth and kids to the design thinking process
Okay.
and entrepreneurship. So it's the slogan is for youth by youth, and it's having kids go through a hackathon, working with mentors at the college level and also at the executive level to have them start thinking critically about what issues are going on in the community and how they would solve for that, whether it's by designing something through an app digitally or designing an experience or just designing something to solve the need. And so this most recent one we did, it was around mental health. And one of our students designed an app for communicating directly within family members or with friends, where you have a status update, and based off those status updates or how you're feeling, there's resources that are sent to you. Um, and also it is kind of a conversation starter, let's say, for some of those tricky conversations. But the whole point is to kind of ignite a conversation between, let's say, parent and child, or let's say that there's a health professional and child, but just so that the youth don't feel isolated or feel alone.
Okay.
um, and that app was an idea that was sparked by one of our students. And then from there, then the next step of that was taking it into development and designing, what does the app look like? What does it feel like? What are the pages that someone's clicking through, um, to try and achieve what their goal is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So how long did they spend on the idea conception before they moved into the design?
So we had our students going through it for about 6 weeks. The initial kickstart of the program was like a half day thing. We were working with the students in Compton Unified School District,
Okay.
and they were meeting with us and meeting with their mentors weekly for over the course of 6 weeks. And it was kind of tied into their school curriculum for their nursing program class. And as a result of that, then we had a showcase towards the end where all the students had the opportunity to pitch for everyone that was watching virtually, because it was during COVID,
Right.
or the COVID restrictions, but they were pitching their ideas. They got to talk about it from start to finish. They got to talk about their exposure to, it's called adverse childhood experiences, and how that impacts and how that trauma impacts how students are showing up for school, or what the things that are and emotions that they're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. So they were educated in that sense, exposed to what resources are out there for them and available for them, and then also coming up again with the idea of, this is for youth by youth. So what is something that I would want to use, to help alleviate some of the stressors or alleviate some of the experiences that I'm going through, or lack of communication for that matter.
And so what's the age range of these students?
They were in high school. They were
Oh,
in high school, yes. And our most recent one, her name was Abigail Vargas. She graduated and is in her first year at UC Irvine. And she's still continuing the nursing program as far as we know right now. But where we are is gearing up to kickstart another rotation of this, but making smaller experiences so that we can reach more students and work with more kids. But I think the biggest thing I would say from the experience is watching her confidence shoot up from the start of the program. She was actually a very, very shy girl,
okay.
to where she was afterwards, of just leading the whole presentation, speaking on, there was actually a health summit that was put on by Blue Shield, because Blue Shield funded part of the
Okay.
project, and she went on to speak and talk about her project, which was great.
Nice.
Yeah.
In front of a lot of people?
Virtually, of course.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Now I want to back up a minute because you kind of said something really fast. You said something about a hackathon. Now
Mhm.
that to me sounds like you're teaching them to hack things. Like, and when I think of hacker, I think of somebody stealing my money out of my bank account. So can you just expound on that just a little bit? Because I'm sure what you're doing is positive.
Yes, yes, yes. So basically, a hackathon is geared around, let's say that there is a code you're trying to crack or a problem you're trying to crack. Just look at it that way.
Okay.
That's kind of, I guess, the positive spin on it.
Yeah.
And it's getting a group of people together to put their minds together to try and solve what that issue is within a condensed amount of time, or an
Okay.
accelerated amount of time.
And do they work in groups? Like, do they help each other, or are they evaluated just individually? Oh, they work in groups.
Yeah, it's groups. So the most recent one we did, we had different teams and we had them based on different colors. So they were pods. And it was we have it stacked where there was a working mentor, working professional that's a mentor, a college mentor, and then the high school student. So with that, it's like there's an opportunity for the college student to get a little bit of mentorship in terms of
Mhm.
management style and working with working with the working professional that's kind of guiding them and helping them coordinate the group together. And then the high school student, obviously there's such a leap between being in high school and then working with someone who is well into their career. So having that middle ground of a college student that's there, that's not too much older than them, that can still relate to them, but also has a little bit more of experience that they can share and wisdom that they can share. And so collectively, there were maybe around 4 to 5 students per pod, and then 1 to 2 college mentors, and then 1 executive young or working professional mentor.
Okay. That
Yeah.
sounds very well planned out. Sounds nice.
Yeah.
And I remember we talked, I don't know, earlier in the year, and because I wanted you for season 5, but
Mhm.
I know you had a lot going on, and I can see. So are you happy with the outcome?
Yes, I am happy with the outcome. I'm happy with the outcome mainly because of how we started the conversation, which is UX design. So I just recently added everything to my portfolio. I'm applying for apprenticeship programs and for entry level positions because I am making the career change. And within that process, of course, I did start a company with my business partner, Chloe, called Continua, like maybe 2 years ago before I decided to make this career change.
Yeah.
And we're still doing that. However, we have both positioned it to be more of a side hustle at this moment. And at the time that you and I were speaking, the first or the 2 years prior to that, it was our priority. Like, that was how I was spending my day in and day out, and so I was in a transitional phase of still kind of figuring out, where does this fit in my life? I still love to do it, and I'm still an entrepreneur at heart,
Yeah.
but I also am seeing a career path going this direction that I'm interested in, and I think that it's aligned with who I am and how I'm growing. So how can I do both? And at the time, I didn't have that answer. So
I understand that. Excuse me.
oh, it's okay. I have some tea right here too. It might be a little bit too hot, so I'm just looking at it and waiting for it to cool down.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of the life of the entrepreneur, right? Because we want to live our passion, but at the same time, we have to pay our bills. And our
Right.
goal or our vision is for that passion to become our major source of income. But in the meantime, we're flexible and we have to be. So yeah, I admire that. And what was I going to ask? Okay, so you mentioned your business partner. Now, is your business partner the same person who is on the podcast with you? 'Cause
Yes.
I talk
Yes.
about okay. Tell me about the podcast.
Yes, so we have the Continuum Vitality podcast, which we started that not too long after we started just our concept of Continua. And at that time, we were doing fitness pop-ups with a live DJ, and it was a beat-based class because my background was
That's right.
um, I was a dancer and a gymnast, and my way of getting through classes was depending upon like if the beat's not like if it knocks, if it's banging, like that's what I'm going to instead of getting caught up on all right, I have like 5 more reps or I have 10 more reps.
Yeah.
If I lost myself just emotionally, I think to the music, I wasn't focusing too much on how many more I had to do. So it was more of a motivational piece. And in that process, we got a lot of people that were asking us more and more questions about health.
Mhm.
And of course, just health and wellness is such a broad spectrum and a broad paintbrush to even just say. And since it's so nuanced and there's so many different amazing things to learn about the body, we decided that we wanted to have a podcast for those conversations, but we wanted it to be relatable and conversational, not necessarily something where you're cracking open a textbook and getting all the anatomy and physiology terms like that. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So with that, it's okay, where's the connection between health and culture with that? Like, how do we make health and wellness more engaging, more relatable, and seem like it's something that someone can incorporate it within their lifestyle? And that's how we arrived on the podcast idea. And with that, we had like a sleep psychologist, we had pro and ex-pro athletes come on. We've had a physical therapist, we had a body worker, we've had some personal trainers, Olympians, we've had a variety of different people come on, hormone expert and nutritionist as well. We've had a variety of people come on to talk about different topics
Okay.
about the body. And of course, bringing humor, bringing music, and just making it kind of like a discussion. If someone's curious, like you don't have to feel intimidated by extremely large words, you know what I mean, and how these things function. But we all have a body, and our goal is to empower people and at least just spark their curiosity for them to take better care of themselves and to feel empowered by the fact that they can take care of themselves.
Right. And did you say how long have you had the podcast?
We started the podcast. I think our first episode came out 2021, January of 2021. So I guess that's almost going on 2 years.
Almost, yeah. That's
Yeah.
nice, congratulations.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, my voice is starting to go out, but I did notice, that you and I graduated from the same college, so you are a Trojan, so
Yes. Fight on. Fight
yes,
for
um,
sure.
yes, and so we won't talk about the years that we came out, that's not important.
Right.
The important part is that you have 2 degrees from USC, and so
Mhm.
I know that they are tied into, your health and wellness, but can you just say really quickly what they're in?
Yes. So my master's, it's a Master of Science in Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And
Okay.
then for undergrad, I did public relations and sports media.
Oh, sports. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I am going to ask that you share with the audience 2 things.
Yes.
First of all, in your own words and in your eyes, what makes you a boss chick? And then behind that, if you could just share some nuggets for an aspiring boss chick, entrepreneur, up and coming, visionary.
Yes. So I guess I would say the first thing that comes to mind to me naturally of why I would consider myself a boss chick is just having the courage to try. If there's something that I'm curious about when it comes to work or my passions and just taking action, I do it. And I would definitely say there's been plenty of times I've taken a leap of faith when I know I didn't have enough information, I didn't really have the resources or a plan, but I just felt like I'm going to do this and I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah,
So, yeah, and I think that that's what's necessary to be an entrepreneur. Like you got to hustle and be open and curious to wear multiple different hats. And by that piece I think would probably be the advice, which would I would tie over into your second question is wearing multiple hats and just having the tenacity to roll up your sleeves and try something, and it's okay if you're not good at it, and it's just as important to know what your strengths are as well as your weaknesses. There's plenty of things that I've done that I have not been great at, and I'm happy to know that because now I'm like, oh, I don't have to waste my time. I can be more strategic with where I am spending my time, with what lights me up inside. Where do I feel like I have the greatest impact? So I'm not only pouring out to other people, but I'm also not pouring from an empty cup. So I'm a firm believer, I think, in like, yes, you said you got to pay the bills. Like that's not something where I'm like, just follow your passion and the money will come. Like,
yeah,
yeah, we hear that saying all the time, but I think at the end of the day, like I think it's a fine balance between the two. Like keep that realistically in mind on the side of what you can do to support what your passion is, but don't ultimately just let your passion go or let your interest go and let your gift to the world go, because at the end of the day everything will come together, but it's just having the courage to take that step and take that leap.
absolutely. Well, thank you. And I'm going to ask that you share one more time your website or how best you would like for people to get in touch with you if they need to.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes, yes, yes. So for Continua, our podcast slash we're doing fitness pop-ups at Blackbird House in Culver City here right now. So we are still doing a couple fitness classes, but that is the Continua. So TheContinua.com. And then as far as UX design and me personally, my website is Aliyah A. So ALIYAHA.com.
All right. Well, I would like to extend to you an invitation to stay for Girl Talk, which is later in the show where we answer viewers' relationship questions. Are you ready for that?
Yes, I will probably be listening a lot more than I'm answering those questions, but yes.
All right, sounds good. All right, everybody. Well, up next is Miss Lika the Diva with the spotlight on